Hare Krishna, thank you so much for coming to our Sunday Krishna Fest. It's nice to see a big crowd here. We're going to have our lecture now, so if everyone will turn to face the speaker. And our speaker tonight, we're very fortunate to have Badrinarayan Maharaj. And I know he doesn't want me to say much, but I will say one thing. Maharaj gave the Sunday Feast lecture the first time I ever walked into the Hare Krishna temple. And I'm still here. Almost 35 years ago. I walked in not knowing a whole lot. I had read one of Prabhupada's, one of the small books, probably Chant and Be Happy. I had read Bhagavad Gita and didn't understand any of it. But I came and I listened and I left here and became a vegetarian on the spot. I started coming weekly to the Sunday Feast, then I started coming a little more often, then I started coming like all the time. And then I decided that this was the place I really wanted to be because what I heard at the Sunday Feast told me there was a better way to live than the way I'd been living. And so anyway, I owe a great debt to Maharaj for that, for speaking that first Sunday that I happened to be here. So I can tell you all that I know you'll hear some wonderful things tonight. Maharaj was the temple president for many years. Is that good enough?
Thank you very much.
All right. And now he's our regional GBC, so we're fortunate. So please turn off all your cell phones. You will not need them, and we don't want to disturb the speaker. Thank you very much.
You know, we could turn this up just a bit, Janardhanji. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. There's a saying in India from thank you, Prabhu, from Chanakya Pandit. And he says, just as you can take gold from an unclean place, you can take a good lesson even from a fool. So in relation to her kind introduction, the qualification goes to her that I'm a fool, but she managed to extract something useful, so the credit goes to her. Mataji, can you hand me that cup of water? Do you mind? Oh, I was asking her, but I didn't mean to make you get up. Is there any water in it? Hey, fantastico. No, yeah, I covered it. No, that's very good. Thanks. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah, because otherwise, who said that? That was self-preservation, so I know when to stop. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paskacha Desatarini Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shiva Sadi Go Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, let me mention first a few themes I'm going to try to address, and hopefully that will add a thread of coherence to what I say. That's the idea about it. Where are we going here? So it's a matter of perception. How we perceive the world determines how we experience it. How we see ourselves, how we see what is valuable, what is true, what is good. Those are, generally speaking, relative terms. And it depends on how we look at them. Now, spiritualists, Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord, they see the world in one way. And the materialist sees the world in another way. And I'll give you a simple example. Like if you ever see those little collapsible telescopes, spy glasses, what do they call them? You know, you telescopes out and can telescope in. You with me? You know, everybody had one as a kid, generally speaking, or So if I look through the little end out the big end, what happens to what I'm looking at? It becomes big. It becomes closer. It looks big. If I switch it around and look out the big end, out the little end, what happens? Everything looks further away and smaller. It's the same eye. It's the same instrument, but according to how you apply it, you see completely differently. You with me? So similarly, our consciousness, our awareness, our points of reference completely change how we see the world. Why that matters, we're going to try to get into that, but that's our theme. One of the themes is how we see the world. The angle of vision determines how we perceive the world. Another thing I was thinking about is, you've heard the saying of putting a square peg in a round hole. You heard that saying? It's like trying to put a square peg in a round hole. What does that mean? Anyone want to help us out with, what does that example mean, a square peg in a round hole? If you get the wrong answer, don't worry. Still get prashadam. We'll still be friends. Don't. But anyone want to hazard a guess? Yes. Oh. It won't fit. What's another word? Yeah, you can hammer till hell freezes over, excuse my French. But it's not going to, the square peg is not going to, well, I mean, you could, I don't even know if then you could do it. But in generally speaking, it's something that doesn't fit. It's not going to work. You can whack at it as long as you like. It's just not, you got to get a square peg for a square hole and a round peg for a round hole. Although I imagine you could put a you could put a square peg in a round hole if it was big enough hole. But anyway, the principle is there. What is the example of oil and water? It's like oil and water. Anyone want to hazard a guess what that means? It's just like oil and water. It never mixes. I mean, you can shake it. You can temporarily. Even then, I imagine it's just suspended in small amounts. But you can shake. Hey, it's merged, it's mixed. Put it down, what happens? It'll separate it. It's an unnatural state. Trying to mix it and make it homogeneous is an unnatural state. The two things just don't mix. So looking through a telescope, different angle, same instrument, same eye, same object, but you'll experience it completely differently depending on how you look at it. Square peg in a round hole, and trying to mix oil and water. So those are the themes I'm going to try to relate to Bhagavad Gita and our practical life. That's where we're going, hopefully. And what was the impetus for this is I was listening to a talk, a recording of the founder of the Harekrishna movement, founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. And he was saying everyone in this world is trying to become big. Trying to become big. But a Vaishnav, he feels himself insignificant. He is trying to become small. Now that's not low self-esteem, it's not, whatever it is. But the materialistic path is let me become big. Srila Prabhupada, again, the founder of the Hare Krishna movement, he was in Japan. It's a long story. He was negotiating the printing of some of our books with Dynapon Press. And Prabhupada was so expert, he completely blew their mind. So they were trying to recover from the offer Prabhupada had made. Print all the books for free, and we'll pay you over time, which they were not used to that kind of proposal. So they reposed to a conference room to try to regroup and catch their breath. And they left one junior executive in the room, just in case Prabhupada was with Tamal Krishna Goswami and Brahmananda, in case they needed water, coffee, tea, which of course we don't drink, but they were just there. And the man didn't speak much English, this junior exec. And Prabhupada asked him, what is your goal in life? And the man got the picture, but he didn't know how to explain. He understood the question, but he didn't know how to explain. Now all the top executives had, there was a big conference table, picture the scene, big conference room, and they'd all put their cards, their, what do you call it, name card, calling card, or whatever you want to call it. Business card, yeah, had put them all on the table, laid them out. So this young junior exec ceremoniously collected and stacked all the different cards. So he had a stack of all the other executives. And then he took out his own card and very dramatically put it on top. In other words, his goal was to climb to the top of the ladder, to be on top. And it's human nature. People like to be on top. They want to be the... So everyone's trying to become, again, the telescope, different ways of looking at it, two different opposing ways. The materialist, and they say, what is it, Schadenfreude, what is the German word? Which means... It's not enough to just succeed yourself, but you have to see your competitors fail. You have to drive by in the brand new Mercedes and splash mud on them as they're on the corner selling pencils or newspaper, Then it's the full formula. So, but the devotee, he has a different mindset. So let's talk first, because we have a choice. The fact of the matter, Prabhupada liked the saying that we are all captains of our fate. We have the cornerstone principle. The living entity, all of us, are individual souls. And we are revolving through this cycle of samsara. It's 8,400,000 different species. All different combinations, like from 3 colors, red, blue, and yellow. You can make all the colors in the rainbow if you're an expert artist. So there's 3 modes or currents or tendencies or inclinations or forces. They're called the 3 modes of material nature, gunas. And actually, if you take, Prabhupada gives the example, how do you make a very strong rope? If you take several ropes and bind them together, then it becomes very strong. So if we take these 3 ropes, these 3 gunas, the tendency to passion, the tendency to ignorance, and even material goodness. Oh, I'm a very pious man, I'm the, whatever it may be, and that gives a sense of pride. Those 3 ropes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are bound together and tie us to the wheel of samsara. At the same time, and the animals, they're just plodding through. It's like a natural conveyor belt. They're just ticking off, marking time in the different animal species, plant species. But the human form of life is unique because in human form of life, we have free will. Different degrees, different levels, but the human form of life, the principle is we can choose. So one of the results I'm hoping, aiming for, is that if we consider these things, that we have a choice. We are captains of our fate. We are not obliged to just accept whatever falls on our head. That's life. That's just the way it is. And why we cannot change circumstances. I mean, often you cannot change. We all have karma. We all have destiny. We're being blown by the forces of nature. But we can, so we may not be able to change circumstances. Whatever we've done in the past, as you sow it, so shall you reap, the law of karma. However, we can change, we have a choice how we respond to circumstances. You follow the difference? Whatever falls on our head, okay, we got to deal with it. But how we choose to deal with it, how we choose to process it, that is our choice. So we're going to talk about the materialistic disadvantages and the advantage of the Vaishnav or the Bhakti or the Krishna devotee view. And then we can balance, like a pan balance, do they call it? Or the scales, you put weight on one side, the other side goes up. So this is I want to lay out the case for both sides, and then you have a choice. Which makes sense? Okay? That's where we're going. So we think, and I'm including myself in this, the general tendency is to think that we are the master of things. What is it? Man is the measure of all things, and that we can push this material nature around. We think that we're pushing matter. But the fact of the matter is, we are being pushed by matter. We're not the pusher, we're the pushed. We are not the controller, we are the controlled. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, what is it? Prakriti kriyamanani guna karmati sarvasya ahankara vimudatma kartahamiti manyate? Yeah, okay. So, we think we're the controllers. And Krishna gives the reason why. Because we're bewildered by pride and ego, which we're going to talk about. We think, oh yeah, we're the... But in fact, things are going on by the material nature, by the force of material nature. And we're simply responding to... We're not the controllers. Here's a few examples. If I can find... Krishna just gave me a good example. Where are my glasses? See, I'm not the controller. So... because we want to cover a lot of ground, I'm just going to give a few examples, but if you contemplate these things, you'll think of a number of examples. One is that we're controlled by the material nature. Jimmy Carter, you remember Jimmy? I think he's still alive, isn't he? Takes a licking but keeps on ticking. He's 90-something, I think, isn't it? So, when he was president, he was one of successful, that's another thing, competent as a president in that, that's another thing. But materially, he was a nuclear scientist. Yeah, he was. He was in, on a nuclear submarine, one of the first in the Navy, with whoever that guy was, I forget that, the father of the American atomic submarine Navy. Super smart guy. And the American economy was in a malaise. So he got together the best and the brightest. Harvard, Stanford, I don't want to leave anybody out, but you get the idea. The top economists in America. And they met at Camp David, and they ruminated, and they debated, and they came up with a plan how to spark the economy. It was a genius plan by the best and the brightest. They were going to give everybody a rebate on their taxes. Because the idea is that everyone will go out and spend it, right? As fast as they can. They don't save it. They don't immediately. They have no control of their senses. Immediately, and they figured this will prime the pump, isn't it? A rising tide lifts all boats. Everybody goes out and spends, and people have to produce more. And if you work in a factory, or if you're a farmer, or, whatever it is, it all lifts the whole boat. Genius! Everybody. Now the government was taking a risk because it was losing that tax revenue. It was giving it back to the people, but it was going to spark everything. And because people were going to spend more, they were going to make the money back at the end. Genius. Foolproof. Way to go. So they gave everybody the money back. You know what happened? Hey, I got to... What do we do? Can somebody not... Where's one of our... No. Can you just take one of these cushions and stick it by that door? And that'll keep it from slamming because it'll distract people. Of course, they'll be distracted watching you, but you're nice looking, so it's okay. Thanks. So, what happened? This ingenious plan to kickstart the economy. Thank you, Prabhu. Well, on the East Coast, the temperatures drop below zero. So what happened is everybody cranked up the thermostat. And all the money that they'd got in their pocket, instead of going back into the economy, went to pay their utility bill. And on the West Coast, the western half of the United States, they had a completely unpredictable, out of sync, out of season, huge heat wave. Everybody cranked up the AC. All the money went to, what is our power company? SDG&E, SanDiego, what is it? SanDiego gouge and extort, SDG&E. It all went to the utility bills. So the government lost the money. People didn't spend it in the general marketplace. It was a net zero gain. The whole thing blew up in smoke. And all it took was one of Indra or what is it, Vayu or Surya, one of the devas, one of the demigods, just to tink, tink, tink on the thermostat of the cosmos. And their best laid plans went up in smoke. So, I mean, there's so many examples. We are not in control. We are controlled by material nature. So that's one of the factors. We think we're big. We think we're in charge. We think forget it. So that's just one factor. Another factor that's controlling us, we're controlled by our senses. And there's an example. Can anyone think of the example given in Bhagavad Gita? Should I give you a big hint, even bigger than that? Of a big, strong animal completely controlled by the senses. We could use the example of an elephant, but I'm thinking of another animal. Bovine. You could also use a hog, because a hog eats anything, has no discrimination. It sees human, I don't want to go scatological, but you get the idea. They see this nice halava. They're very happy. They are all yummy. So that's another example how they're but I'm thinking of another. So we have an elephant. Elephant is big and strong. You know how they capture an elephant? A wild elephant? Dravida Prabhu. How do they do? A young elephant, beautiful female elephant, nice cudgel, ankle bells. And the big bull elephant goes chasing after the beautiful she elephant, falls into the pit. And that way he's captured. And gradually, by controlling his food and this and that, they control him. So an elephant's controlled by his senses in that way. A hog is controlled by the tongue. And I was thinking of a bovine, a male bovine, other than Dravida. Anybody want to guess what I'm talking about? Big, strong animal. Anybody know? A bull. Now, has anybody, those Hungarian, I don't take too much time. A bull is a big, because we don't even see them now. We sent a printer for a poster many years ago, and it was Krishna in Vrindavan with a cow, and the printer labeled the file, girl with dog. Because Krishna is so beautiful, thought, it must be a beautiful girl, and he'd never even seen a cow. I thought, it must be a dog, girl with dog. So our experiences, so a big, big bull, you know how they control a bull? Anybody know? Oh, well, how? They put a ring in the nose. And I've seen in India, I've seen in Burma, I've seen so many places that a little boy, even a little girl, little, it's 6, 7, 8 years old, that bull is huge. And they just pull the little rope, and the bull is very subservient, will go wherever, it's very tender there, and that's how the bull is controlled. So we're completely controlled by our senses. We're controlled by material nature. We're controlled by our senses. Watch kids. I remember, anyway, we'll leave it as it is. Again, we're defeated by material nature. You can't win. So when I was a kid, I remember when we first got a color TV. It was a big deal. We got a color TV, believe it or not. Most people don't even know what TV, they just watch a flat screen now. What's a TV? And I asked my father, I said, hey, this is great. There were 3 networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, right? Hey, and not everything was, whatever. And I remember thinking that, I said to my father, this is fantastic. I said, they're giving us all this stuff, cartoons, this, that, Disney Channel, for free. My father said, no, it's not free at all. I said, why? We're not paying for it. How does TV, how does any advertisement make money? I blew it right there. How does any programming, what is its purpose? How does it make money? Advertisement. And you watch little kids, they're peacefully, kids will be there playing with straw sticks, a tire hanging from a tree, cardboard box, no problem. They're, if they're a little creative, they're happy. But they watch the TV, and they, oh, you don't have the latest whiz-bang? You don't have this or that? All the other kids have one. You don't have, it's new, improved. And what does the kid do? Throws a tantrum, screams and yells, refuses to eat. So my father was in business, and he told me his mantra was, create a need, then fill it. It's quite insidious, seditious if you think about it. You're minding your own business, and then they instill a desire. You don't know that you really need this. China's pumping out so many things that are absolutely useless. Go to Walmart. 90% of the stuff in there we don't really need. But they instill a desire. Everybody else they're getting all the girls. You don't have it. You got to get one. Whatever it is. So we're controlled by the material nature. We're controlled by our senses. And what is it? We're controlled by pride, by ego. This outfit, Dravida Prabhu was giving a very nice class. We have a morning class, Srimad Bhagavatam class. And he was giving class this morning. And he made the point, do you know how much my outfit cost? It's cotton. It's nice. Cotton. It's cotton. It breathes, you know. Supports villagers, and it's nice. And the total cost was probably, it's maybe $15. $5 for the dhoti, because it's cotton silk is more, but $5 for the top piece, and $5 for so $15. And I'm always in fashion. I don't have to look at Vogue magazine and see what are they wearing in Paris this year. And because we have a gift shop, it's a fantastic, we have a nice gift shop here, but the one in LA is a cornucopia of things. You know, it's a desire tree, kalpa briksha. And literally, the temple president's wife, Tadit, his better half in every way, runs that gift shop. And she buys, because they get all kinds of Hollywood people come, she buys in India and designs according to the color of the year. Did you know that every year has a color announced by Paris? And if you don't, one year it was a certain orange, once it was a certain green. It's all these different colors. And if you're not with it, the color of the year, I mean, don't even bother going to Fifth Avenue in New York. They'll throw you right off. You might as well join the Hare Krishnas. So my point is, we're completely controlled. Well, when you drive on the freeway, sometimes you'll see an old car. It's going to an old car show, or like a Model T Ford or whatever it is. Anyone know when a Model T Ford was made, roughly? 1920s? 1918? Anybody know? 1914? In the teens, sufficient to say in the teens, which means 100 years ago. Shocking. And it's still running. Now, one should think that if they could make a car still running in 1919, Volvo advertises that they do, but if they concentrate on it, they could make a completely safe car that would last 50, 60 years and be solid as a tank and run on solar. Why don't they do it? Yeah, how many, if you make one car and you sell it and the guy's got it for his lifetime, kind of cuts into your profit margin, right? So they develop, fashion. Car, bigger fins, smaller fins, different grill, this, that. Why? Because when the neighbor pulls in, or your brother-in-law pulls in with a brand new, and you've got a 10-year-old model, and his chest swells up, and you become downcast and say, hey, Charlie, how long have you had that rust bucket? So we're completely controlled. And by ego, we're controlled by the material nature. We're controlled by our senses. We're controlled by pride. We're not free at all. Prabhupada tells a story about the dangerous and insidious nature of pride. There were two men, somehow or other they stopped by a river, and they were cooking, so they wanted to draw some water from the river. And they needed to tie a rope onto a bucket to throw into the river and pull the water out. So one man pulled out his handy-dandy Swiss Army knife. And he said, let's cut it with my knife. The other one said, nah, I've got a pair of Swiss Boy Scout scissors. Its scissors are much better. What? You're deprecating my Swiss Army knife that has never failed me? They said, wow, the scissors is so much cleaner, the rope doesn't fray. They got into a huge argument. One guy saying scissors, scissors, scissors. Other guy saying knife, knife, knife. Now, the scissors advocate was a little guy, and the knife advocate was a big lummox, a gorilla. So finally, the knife advocate said, if you don't agree with me, I'm going to hold you under this water until you drowned. So the big guy grabbed the little guy, holding him under the water. The knife advocate's holding the scissors advocate under the water. You know what the scissors advocate did? Even though he's underwater, going down for the third time, he put his hand up and went like this. It's pretty much a joke. You know what I mean? And we're like that. We get into so much. All my neighbors, I'm over here. It's a long story, but it's close to my heart. It's called Diamond Apartments. It's actually a diamond in the rough, trust. It's coal. But they all fight. And this one is mad at this one. You can't park your car there. That's my spot. You play your TV too loud. Well, you snore. I mean, it's like they're all mad at each other. They come and tell. I'm the only one they're not mad at. And I'm mad at them because they make too much noise. But that's another story. So I'll try to go to, anyway. But be it as it may, I mean, so I wanted to mention, if I could, somehow or other I've lost my, where I was. Because I'm thinking of the time factor. Well, let's say this. And even if, somehow or other, the perfect storm, but a positive storm, we manage to get a grip on material nature. We manage to focus our senses and aim for what we want to aim for. We're not completely bewildered by false ego. And we get what we want for a few minutes. We manage to push the whole thing together. How long do we have it for? How long? The house, you know, the noisy neighbor moves in, or the roof starts. We don't own stuff. Stuff owns us. Car always needs maintenance. One time, my father bought me a brand new car. I had a very kind father in so many ways. Bought a brand new car. I literally had the car for 3 weeks. And I was right over here going down the alley to pick flowers for the deities. And somebody backed out of that St. Thomas. I said, wait, stop, I was honking. The guy was fighting with his wife, actually. And they backed right into this crunch. Well, so much for the newness of my new car. I had no control over that. I'll give you an example. So even we get it, how long do we have it for? We work so hard. The mind is in two states. It's either, what is it? Hankering and lamenting. Harsha Soka, what is it? I forget how it's described. Kanchati Sochati. It's either, Brahmabhuta Prasanatma. So it's either hankering or lamenting. That's the general state of the material mind. I want it, I want it, I want it. You get it for a few minutes. Oh, it's gone, it's gone, it's gone. Let me give you a simple example. You can do a field study when you go home. You don't have to trust me. You don't have to trust Shastra. You can try it at home. When you see someone, see a little kid, ask the little kid, how old are you? Say, no, let me guess. Now, how should you guess? Suppose you think the kid is 8 years old, looks 8 years old, has a big sign, I am 8. How old do you guess? You guess a little older. Guaranteed. Everybody knows. And what will the kid do? When the kid's 8, you say, oh, I thought you were 10. What happens? Oh, they love it. They stand up. Their chest swells a bit. You ask them, they'll tell you, I'm 8.5. I'm 8 3/4. I'm almost 9. They want to get older. They are leaning forward into the face of time. Right? Now, take an oldster. Take me. I'm nicked and scraped by time. Take anybody with a little gray hair. And sometimes they open the door wide open. How old do you think I am? Oh, you look almost dead to me. No, I don't recommend that. I don't recommend that. What you say to them is, you say, wait, let me guess. Suppose they're 65. Say 60. Suppose they're 85. Say 75. Say a little younger. How do they feel? Oh, it's almost as good as saying, oh, you must have lost weight. You look great. I mean, they just love it. People are, So I have done a study of the matter over the years, and people want to get older till around 23, 24, 25. Then they don't want to get older. And people want to get younger till they're around 30, 32, 33. So there's only really a window. Suppose somebody lives 80 years. Let's be generous. Say you're satisfied with your age from 24 to 35. So that's 11 years, right? So let's say 10 years, because it's either. If you live 80 years, it means only 1/10. That means 9/10. What would that be? 90% of the time, we're not really satisfied with our body. Just the age, what to speak of, how it looks, how much money we've got, where we live. Forget all the other elements. Just taking one element, the basic foundation, the physical condition of this body, its vitality. We're only happy 1/10 of our time. So even you manage to get it, all the other forces, even you manage to balance on that pinnacle that, for whatever it is, in due course it's gone. So I looked up a synonym of the word, where is it? This is a synonym of the word pride. It's pretentious. Prabhupada used it in a purport the other day. And pretentious, according to Oxford, is simple first meaning, attempting to impress by affecting more importance or merit than is actually possessed. I'm going to say it again. This is an element that creates our view of this world. Is pretentious, pride. And what is it? Attempting to impress by affecting more importance or merit than is actually possessed. We don't own this body. We're going to become, because it's a serious condition, I don't want to make light of it, but Ronald Reagan, when he first got Alzheimer's, you know what his joke was? Alzheimer's is not so bad. I can hide my own Easter eggs now. So, we don't even control our mind. We don't control our beauty. We don't control our living condition. And yet we're so proud, I'm an American. What to speak of? What will we be in our next life? There was one famous politician, I will not mention his name, in India, and 3 different astrologers predicted that he became in his next life a dog in the Swedish embassy. They called him Mountbatten's poodle. You figure it out. So where do you go in your next life? Even your top of the, father of your nation. Next thing you know, you're a poodle in the Swedish embassy. At least you're still in diplomacy. At least you're still in politics. You can bark when the German ambassador comes. You're not quite at the negotiating table, but you're still in the political field. So the point is, Krishna says, Dehinos sminyata dehe, komar jovanam jara. That there's a cycle. Everything, including our body and mind, goes through this state of birth, growth, maturation, culmination, gives off some byproducts, declines, and dissolution or death. Everything, societies, individually, families, countries, everything is going through this cycle. So an intelligent, so what do we have? My guru says we are, puffed up over borrowed plumes. We don't own these things. They're borrowed. And we can't keep them. So I am looking at the time. Some of the troubles with pride, looking through the telescope in the wrong way, trying to become big, driven by our senses, our pride, trying to conquer the material nature. Here's some of the problems. Because we're, again, way on a pan balance. What do you want? What worldview do you want to have? How do we want to approach the world? Full of pride? So, pride gives rise to anger. Krishna says if you're attached to something and you lose it, you become angry from contemplation of the senses. What is it? One becomes attached. From attachment comes lust, frustration of that lust. Becomes anger. From anger is bewilderment of memory. So it's a cycle. Psychologically, we're all going through. We become angry. I had it. I lost it. You've got more. Envy. So many things. We can't hear good advice. Humble. Do you know that per capita income, poor people give more money in charity than rich people. Poor people, lower middle class, I'm assuming they have anything to give, but they are more generous than what to speak of your, 1%. So pride, envy, anger, that's the brew that's stewing around in our brain when we look at the world through this material concept. So, let's talk about that. I'm not going to leave you there. Okay. Who is my friend? Dravida Prabhu helps me out all the time in so many ways. But was it brutish, beastly, and brief? Yeah, he's an English philosopher. And how did he describe life in this world? Nasty, brutish, and short. So you can make a solid case that's materialistic life. Okay, we're done. See you later. No, we're not going to leave you there. Don't worry. What is the other end of the telescope? What is a Vaishnava view? What is the devotee? How do they, we've explained the bitter fruit of the materialistic view. So why would you sign up for that? What's the alternative? So a little bit about the Vaishnava view. And it begins with the understanding that we're not this body and all the things related to it. The LA Ratha Yatra is coming up. We'll say it enough times, it'll soak in. August 5th, the first Sunday in August, the Los Angeles Ratha Yatra, a spiritual Barnum and Bailey circus, according to the LA Times. It's a wonderful event. One of my friends, actually he's my superior in so many ways, but still he kindly considers me a friend. Jayadvaita Swami, one of our senior monks. And he's very good at pithy, sharp, succinct, to-the-point statements. So he was speaking in the question and answer booth. And it's a lot of fun. People gathered all around. And I couldn't see him, but I knew it's a long story. I just showed up and I caught one sentence of his. As I arrived, I heard him say, the bottom line, the beginning of all spiritual understanding, the opening door to wisdom, is the understanding that we are not this body. Now, I was standing behind two very large men. They were land whales. They were in Guinness's Book of World Records. These are two big guys, two land whales. And I was trying to see around them. And I heard Jayadvaita Swami say, the essence of spiritual life, the beginning of wisdom, is the understanding that we are not this body. One of the guys turned his friend and said, well, that's a relief. So they're thinking in physical sense, But actually that we're not this body, it's a huge relief. It doesn't matter how we look. It doesn't matter that we're going to grow old. It doesn't matter that, frankly, sorry to rain on the parade, but we're all going to die. What is it that the graveyard is full of indispensable people? It's all, Yudhishthira Maharaj was asked, what is the most wonderful thing? By Yamaraj, Yudhishthira of the Pandavas, one of the Mahajans, the true knowers of Dharma. They asked him, what is one of the most amazing things? He says, all around us, we see people dying, but we think, I won't die. There's a poem, Carlos Williams, whatever, the guy's William Carlos Williams, and he writes, I knew that man was mortal, but I always thought an exception would be made for me. No. Dust to dust, ashes to ashes. So, but it's a huge relief. I'm not the body, I'm the soul within. So that's one element of a spiritual vision. And because of the time factor, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course the Harekrishna movement is time immemorial. It goes all the way back to Krishna playing his flute and being heard by Brahma at the beginning of the universe and beginning of creation. And before that it's eternal. But Krishna came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about 500 years ago. And he wrote his Sikshastikam, his simple verses of instruction. And one of them describes the mood, seeing, instead of one way looking through this pride and trying to become big, and the other way trying to become humble, trying to become understanding our real position, being freed from pretension and pride. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu writes, Trinadapi Sunichena, what is it? Toror eva sahishnuna, amanina manadena, kirtaniya sadahari. First, what is it? What is the first? Trinadapi Sunichena. Anyway, there, I just said it. So, to feel oneself lower than the straw in the street. Even Jesus gives the same example. If you go to a party, a wedding party, you sit at the end of the table and they'll invite you to come forward. If you sit at the head, they'll say, "Who are you?" and push you out. It's one of his parables. So instead of trying to become, I'm the greatest God's gift in the world, if one's a humble person, not again low self-esteem, paralyzed by lack of will, we're not talking about that, but an honest, I'm just a simple servant of Krishna. I'm a servant of God. They asked Prabhupada, anyway, I don't want to go too far afield. So, where do you find the straw? It's at the street. Everyone's stepping on it. It's insignificant, lower than the straw. That's how one feels. It should be pointed out, though, the cow eats straw, and what happens? What does the cow produce? It produces milk. Now, I know we're not talking about factory farm exploiting the cow. We're not talking about all of that. But we're talking about actually a cow produces a miracle food, more than the baby can drink. So the cow can take a useless thing, straw, and turn it into milk. Nature's a miracle food. In the same way, if one takes the position of being low in the straw in the street, being like straw, actually one can produce the most wonderful things. Good relationships, peaceful world view, so many things. We're going to get into that in a second. So, lower than the straw in the street, more tolerant than a tree. Think about a tree. Tree, it pours rain, the tree says, "Hey, forget it, I'm going indoors. I'm not hanging out here." It's blazing hot, the sun says, hey, I'm looking for some shade, I've had enough. Dog comes, offers his respects in the unique fashion of dogs. Hey, come on, man. Give me a break. I got to stand here in the sun, and you do this to me, Talk about insult to injury. No, the tree tolerates. And not only does the tree tolerate all these indignities and difficulties, what else does a tree continue to do? It continues to give. In spite of all difficulty which it tolerates, it gives shade, it gives flowers, it gives fruit, it gives fabric you can make, it gives, what did I say, fuel? It gives material for, it even gives its own body. So more tolerant than the tree, and yet it continues to give. This is the mindset of a Vaishnava, of a spiritual person, of a devotee of Krishna. And what is it? Amanina manadena. Everyone wants to be respected. I mean, we can fail 30 times, and the 31st time, just by the law of average, it works out, and we think, just see my skill. It's infectious. It's flammable. The slightest spark and pride inflames within us. You've got, Sudan was fighting. And it's an impoverished country. I think Sudan has some oil, but it's hot. They broke into the Sudan. They were fighting with each other because of pride and ego, and they couldn't get along. Now they broke into South Sudan and North Sudan, or regular Sudan. Now South Sudan is fighting. They can't get along. So where do you want to go? They're fighting. Blue coat. What do they call it? Red states, blue states. Everybody's fighting. So everybody wants to be on top. Everyone wants to be respected. But a Vaishnava thinks, let me offer all respects to others. Prabhupada, one time, it's a long story, the short version, a man started shouting at Prabhupada, screaming and yelling, and swearing at Srila Prabhupada. Finally, one of the devotees, Brahmananda, who's a famous hero, he used to be a wrestler, he's a big, big guy, said, "I think you better leave now," and gave him the bum's rush. And everyone was shocked. The devotees, after the man, they all said to Prabhupada, what will happen to this man? Will he be cursed like Ashwatthama to roam in the Himalayas? Will he be born with a harmonica rolling in the gutter in Calcutta? Well, what will happen to this man for, speaking so harshly to a saintly person? So everybody offered their possible future, prayaschita, or purificatory process for this man. And how? Will he have to drink boiling ghee and die? What will happen to him? Do you know when it finally came around to Srila Prabhupada, the last person, how this man will be saved from his offense to a saintly person? That's good. Gimsam Prashadam. We'll accept that. You get 10 points for that. But Prabhupada said, we could forgive him. We could forgive. Nobody thought of that. But Prabhupada's mood was, you know, well, he's angry, this, that. He's got so many things in his life. He's lost his temper. We could forgive him. And if everyone had that, someone asked Prabhupada, well, what would happen if the whole world became Krishna conscious? We should have such a problem. Be peaceful, offering all respects to others, not respecting any respect for others. And in such a state, one can always chant the holy name. One can always remember Krishna. One can always remember one's position. And remembering Krishna, I want to close on that. I've got 6 minutes here. I wanted to just give a few examples. This is from the teachings of Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev is another one of the Mahajans, one of the great souls, the true knowers of Dharma. Anyone who knows Mahabharata, coming from India, knows Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev, on the bed of arrows, was still fully conscious. And he's giving instructions to the Yudhisthira and the Pandavas. And it's a whole series, but I just pulled out a few quotes, which we've given on the scale on one side, you've got passion and anger and envy and greed and lamentation and all the things that come from the materialistic, and fear and angst, hankering, lamenting. Those are all weighing on the materialistic scale. What are a few changes, like changing the telescope different ways? What are the few changes on the Vaishnava, on the devotee, on the spiritual person's side? So these are a few words of wisdom from Bhishma Dev for solving our day-to-day problems. It says, to get freedom from anger, one should learn how to forgive. And we gave the example of Srila Prabhupada. It's the other person's fault. They've had this, that. If there's some kindness and mercy, and we're not talking about if somebody attacks with a gun or, whatever. We're not talking about, there are different reasons you have a right to violence, to react. But in general, in our interpersonal dealings, if one can conquer over anger if one learns to forgive. Another one is, worldliness can be avoided by cultivating knowledge of impermanence. Oh, I want this, I want that, oh, I'll work. I mean, people work so hard. And we're not against hard work. We work hard, devotees work hard. But they work so hard and they get a 2-week vacation? 2 weeks? The whole time they got to be checking online, checking on their phones ringing, they're getting text messages from the boss. I mean, what kind of real relief is there? And towards the end of the vacation, you're completely anxiety because you got to go back. You need a couple days to cool down and just get it out of your system. And then you got to worry about going back. So out of your 2 weeks, you got a few days. And that's life. You work slaving at the fender bender factory or some mindless paper shuffling or, I don't know what, but, generally speaking, it's not. And what do they say? Service is my business. You ever heard this saying? There's an oil company, a gasoline company. Service is my business. No, business is their business. If you don't pay them, are they going to serve you? You don't show up for work, is the boss going to say, oh, you had a rough day, stay home today? Forget it. They got 10 people standing in line. Most people work at will. That's a new thing. At will means they can drop you down a shaft without any, health care or anything. They can drop you right down a shaft. What kind of life is that? So, but if one knows, instead of, I gotta have, need, this isn't big enough, that's better, new, improved, everything in the supermarket, not everything, but so many things are stamped new, improved. I've mentioned this before. How many varieties of Coca-Cola are there? I mean, what is it? It's sweetened fizzy water that rots your teeth. And if you live on it, like that, what is that, Super Size Me, the guy who tried to live on McDonald's? And his doctors pulled it off. He was going to try to live for, I think, 2 months or something. And they pulled him off after a couple of weeks because he was, completely, his health was collapsing. So, but new improved Coca-Cola, what? Light, dark, this flavor, that's. So instead, with knowledge of impermanence, let me just get what I need. Let me get some shelter, let me just move peacefully through life. Because I'm going to have to give it all up anyway. I have been to many funerals as a priest. I have never, ever been at a funeral. Everybody, they all come up and offer some eulogy. Some other time I'll tell you an Irish joke about an Irish wake. But, they try to say something nice. And it's good, it's appropriate at a funeral. I have never heard anyone say, oh, he had a brand new red Ferrari. He had a huge mansion by the beach. He used to sit home and look at his 6 Rolex watches. I've never heard it. I've never heard it. What I've heard is what they did with their life, how they gave to others, how they were kind, how they were charitable, how they were responsible, how they helped others. I've never heard anybody, if you like a little mantra here, a bumper sticker, I've never heard them known for what they had. I have repeatedly heard people remembered for what they gave. That's a simple fact of life. So my point is that, or at Bhishma Dev's, one becomes peaceful from all this hankering with knowledge of impermanence. There's only 2 more. Only one more. Perfect knowledge can be obtained by self-cultivation. We have to be serious. One man, Prabhupada was coming out of a big program, a big pandal tent, beautiful, 35,000 people, and Prabhupada was speaking, was at that, in Delhi, at, what do they call it, Ram Leela grounds? Anyway, so Prabhupada was speaking there. And as he was coming out, one man grabbed Prabhupada's feet, as they're prone to do in India, and said, Swamiji, Swamiji, save me, save me. Like spiritual knowledge is transferred like an electrical current, zzz, and all of a sudden, no other field of knowledge. Why have UCSD, SDSU just line up? Why pay? I don't know what it costs. What does it cost to go to Harvard? Who knows how much? Why don't they just have all the professors line up? Zzz. Oh, you fully understand political science. Zzz. You fully understand. No other field of knowledge is transferred by electrical current. And yet people think, oh, he touched me, he looked into my eyes, and I understood it. No, it's ridiculous. You're being cheated. Don't be cheated. So when this man said, oh, Swamiji, Swamiji, save me, like Prabhupada was going to zap him, Prabhupada said, yes, I can save you, but you must do the work. You follow? I can save you. The process is there. So it says here, perfect knowledge, how to live perfectly in this world and in the next. How to go back home, back to God, into Krishna's lotus feet? It's there. But we have to do it by self-cultivation. We have to work at it. So I want to end with 2 quick stories to make this point. The materialist is always in anxiety. He's envious. There's 3 types of people for the materialist. He sees 3 categories. He sees people lower than him, he sees people equal with him, and he sees people in a better position. Lower, equal, better, material. Those who are lower, what does he do? He exploits. Those who are equal, he competes with. Those who are superior, he's envious of. What kind of world is that to live in? Now, because these disparities are there everywhere. A Vaishnava also sees people who may not be as advanced as him in spiritual life. He sees people who are equal. And he definitely sees, certainly in my case, people who are far superior in advanced in spiritual life. Remember the other guy? Exploit, compete, envy, materialist. How does the devotee see? Those who are not as advanced, he gives mercy. He's compassionate on them. How can I help them advance? How can I help them materially and spiritually? So, merciful, compassionate. Those that are equal, what does he do? He makes friends with them. They become his friends. And those who are superior, you offer service and take instruction. So do we want to live in a world that is exploitative, competitive, and envious? Or do we want to live in a world that is compassionate, full of friendship, and those we love, respect, and get good advice from? It's our choice. It's as simple as that. So we can end there. We're 3 minutes over. Thank you for sitting so patiently. And now, we have a short kirtan, right? Yeah. Few minutes. Also, we have books. I will make you an offer. If you don't have Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, as it is not Bhagavad Gita as I think it is, Bhagavad Gita as we wish it was, Bhagavad Gita, pretty common, no.
as it is. If you don't have a copy of Prabhupada's Gita, and if you don't want to start, it's a large book. So much fun. We get to do a chapter a day. You don't have time for that. You take any one of our small books. You can buy them in the gift shop. I think, what is it, Damodar Kumar maybe in the front wall. You read it. And if you don't experience a profound change for the better in your life, we will give the book back. You keep the book, and we'll give you your money back. I will personally give you your money back. If you get a book today, take it home and read it. And if you don't feel not minuscule, oh, I read that book, now that's over. If you don't experience a transcendental, positive change in your life, come to me, I'll give you your money back. Thank you.
I think we should leave these lights up. It's a little cooler. What do the rest of you think?
Yeah, but we should stand up.
You can lie down next to the fan. Oh, you're pointing at me.